Welcome to chess, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, so this was a really crazy game I just witnessed. It was a roller coaster for real. Yeah, it was crazy. You know, it went really up and down. It was a really edge of your seat type of situation. I'm not sure if any of you guys caught it, but I got the recap here for you. And I think you're gonna lose your minds the same as I lost my mind. Let me get this fixed here. Bam. But before we get into that, what I have on the board for you right now, this one, the chess puzzle that I gave you guys. Like I said, it was a blockade situation, and so giving you guys the answer here. If any of you guys came up with the very cute queen sacrifice, queen takes h7, then you would be on a completely different level. You really would. Is that where I'm trying to get my? Oh, there we go. Oh, okay. Yeah, you'd be on a completely different level. Because you noticed that the king really doesn't have any moves. I mean, because of course, checkmate is on h8 if he goes over. So we have king takes h7. We got rook to h5, taking advantage of the fact that the king can't go back to this square. And once the king moves back to g8, we have knight to g6, and it doesn't really matter what you do. The king is going to get checkmated. So if you do the only thing and move the rook up to f6, you can even move the rook back to f8. Doesn't matter. It's going to end up being the same situation. So you got rook to h8 check, king to f7, and then you got the nice thematical checkmate with the rook and the knight together. So like I said, that is that one, and you see how this knight blockaded this pawn here and prevented it from moving. So, it didn't give the king any type of flight square situation. So if we just get to the game here, like I said, this is a good one. This is, I think I'm gonna be able to, kind of convey some nice excitement into it because, I did sit there and watch the entire game. So if you guys are ready, let's check it out. All right, so we got E4, and so we got C6, so we got a Caro-Kann on the board. All right, so we got D4, we got D5, and we have E5. So we have the advanced variation of the Caro-Kann. Now, of course, you can go, backing up, you can go like knight to C3, knight to D2. You can also exchange here. All those things are seen pretty commonly. But E5 is the most heavily played move. And so we have bishop to F5, just getting that bishop out of the pawn chain there. All right, so we have knight to D2. All right, so we have E6, knight over to B3. All right, so we have knight to D7, so knight to F3, got H6, just making sure that we got a little bit of space here for this bishop to come back to. All right, so we have bishop to E2, pretty common. We're looking like we're gonna get castled here pretty quick. All right, so we have A5, trying to knock that knight away from its home square, or from the home it's established on B3. All right, so we have A4, and we have bishop to B4. Okay, so it's like I think a lot of you guys are thinking what I'm thinking. It's like just C3. Like C3 just, perfectly backs the bishop back up. And so, generally you feel like it would go back to bishop E7. It would go to E7. No, that's not what Magnus Carlsen does. He's like, I'm not about that life. I'm about the bishop F8 life. So he just literally just undevelops the bishop completely. So, everybody that was commentating was like, hey, I don't know what's going on. And I said the same thing. I'm like, I don't know. like what is bishop F8? It's crazy. Okay, anyway, so we got castles by Wesley So. So we got knight to E7. And we have H3. Just making sure we got loot for our king. Also having some G4 type ideas and stuff. Something that was actually interesting in this position. It's I think it was slightly better than what was played. It would be knight to H4. Because, the goal is to try to push this pawn up and, maybe, bring the knight back. So, moving knight to H4, gives a nice little attack on the bishop and, kind of comes with a tempo. So, we'd probably see bishop back to H7. We'd see F4 coming. Knight would come to F5. We'd see knight takes F5, bishop takes F5, and then we would see something like G4. Just taking advantage of the fact that, this bishop underdeveloped and this king is still stuck in the middle of the board. And so going back to what we had in the game, like I said, we had H3, and so we got bishop back to H7, so bishop to D2 and queen to B6. Wesley So is actually doing really good here. You know, if you're kind of comparing the positions, you know, all white really needs to do is develop their queen, and they got their rooks connected. You know, black still has at least, you know, a couple of moves left, you know, until they get into a good position. So we have knight back to E1, and so we got knight to F5. So we have bishop to D3, so bishop to E7, and queen to C2. Trying to see if we can't, you know, throw some little G4 action in there, and you know, the knight's gonna have to move somewhere. And, you know, you'd be able to pick up this bishop. Well, not that stupid arrow. Bam, that one. All right, and so like I said, we have bishop to G6. Just, you know, make sure that we get the bishop defended. And so we have C4. You know, seemed like it might have been a little bit premature to go C4. Maybe F4 was a better play. And so, but I mean, you know, so we got D takes C4. So we got queen takes C4, and we got knight takes D4. And you know, I forgot. I was gonna stop the video here and see if you guys would I was gonna stop the video, see if you guys could guess the move, but I accidentally went too far. So what you guys can do right now, if you want, is actually stop the video and see what white actually does here in response to this. You pretty much just have two options. I mean, you got queen takes, and then you got knight takes. And so, you know, understanding that you're gonna be dropping the knight if you move the queen. You know, I'm curious, you know, what people are thinking about. So like I said, if you want to stop the video and try to see if you can choose between the two moves, see which one you think is better, we'll wait for you real quick. All right, cool. So like I said, you know, taking with the queen was actually what was played in the game. And it was, you know, kind of leaving that knight, you know, a little bit high and dry. But if you were to try to take with the if you were to take with the, let's go back here. If you were to take with the knight, you'd actually run in a knight takes E5. So you know, as you guys can see here, you know, this bishop is on this bishop, and this knight is attacking the queen and also attacking this this piece here. So it's a little bit hard for the queen. The queen's a little bit overloaded. It's a little bit hard for the queen to hold on to this knight, and at the same time hold on to this bishop all the way. This knight's helping, but you know, it's just kind of just like overloading the pieces a little bit. So it's a little bit better to take with the queen. So we got queen takes D4, you know, queen takes B3, and so we got bishop takes G6, F takes G6, and so we have queen to E4. You know, just trying to give a little attack to this this pawn here. It's a little bit of an artificial threat because you actually can, you know, play king to F7 and just kind of like protect everything. You know, maybe a little bit better was playing bishop C3, just trying to, like, you know, kind of cut your losses and you know, just make sure that we have everything, you know, covered completely. And you know, you might see something like knight to C3, and then queen, you know, at that point could come to G4 and throw a little attack on that pawn, you know. And so, like I said, we got queen to E4. So we have castles by black, just not caring about, you know, losing this pawn in the front. And then we have a nice little exclam. Even though white is actually in like kind of a severely down position, about a pawn's worth. It was a nice little exclam situation, I think. I really like the move, you know, because it's like, it just has a clear threat of, you know, if G takes H6, it's actually considerably better for white. So we'd see queen takes G6, king to H8, queen would take with H6 check, king back to G8, and we'd see rook coming to C1. And I mean, as you can see, the clear threat is coming over here. So you know, bishop to B4 would try to, you know, kind of stave that off. We'd see probably knight to C2, and you know, the rook coming over to D1. So you know, you have actually, my bad, it's queen to G6 first, king to H8, and then rook C to D1. So you know, you kind of have like a situation coming on the knight. You're trying to push rook here, maybe kind of swing it over here. So you got a lot of threats going on. So going back to what we had, so we had bishop takes H6. So seeing all of this, Magnus Carlsen, you know, didn't like those ideas, so he went ahead and went rook to H5. And so we see bishop coming back to E3. And so we got queen to D5, just really wanting a trade of the queens. And this was definitely a critical point in the game. You know, when I checked, the computer was giving queen to C2, not trading queens, because trading queens just kind of gives black the ideal pawn chain. But that's actually what Wesley So like completely did. He took, and then he basically allowed black to have this really nice, you know, pawn chain here. And so kind of hurt a little bit. And so we see F4, but then we see G5 come. And, you know, we try to throw E5 or E6 in there to, you know, try to knock the knight away and save that pawn. And so we see knight to C5, and then we see G4 coming. And Magnus Carlsen just says, man, you know what? F that. He's like, screw that. He's like, I'm giving a rook up. So he takes with G. He takes G takes F4. So he's like, man, you can take my rook. I don't even care. You know, I'm gonna gladly give up that exchange. And so that's what he does. G takes F5. And so we see F takes E3. And I mean, as you guys can see here, you know, we have this gigantic, you know, pawn. I gotta kind of draw a ghetto arrow. We got this gigantic pawn center, pawn storm coming down the board, and it's looking really rough for white in this one here. So we got rook to F4, trying to make sure that we prevent D4 from coming. And we see bishop to F6, you know, trying to put the exclam on, you know, hey, I want to push D4. Like, you're not gonna stop me on D4. And so we see knight to C2, you know, trying their best, you know, to, you know, prevent D4 from coming, because, you know, as soon as D4 comes, you know, these two pawns are just like, I mean, you just can't stop them, man. You know, they're just not going nowhere. So we see E2, and you know, it sets a nice little small trap. I mean, so we see rook to F2 in the game. So, you know, this was recognized. But if we go back, you definitely don't want to just attack immediately with king to F2, because I think you see knight to D3 coming. And you got that fork city going on here and here. Bam. And so, like I said, we see rook to F2. D4 comes. And so we see rook takes C2. There really wasn't a lot better, to be honest. I mean, it kind of looks like you're putting yourself into a fork, but I mean, the situation was so dire that it's like, it really didn't matter what you do. So you got a D3 come, and rook to D2, D takes C2, rook takes C2, and you got rook to D8. Just completely giving the knight away, right? Like, you're just hanging the knight. Like, what's going on, right? Nah, you're not hanging the rook, or you're not hanging the knight. And so we see rook to E1, and if you did capture with rook takes C5, you got bishop to D4. Check. That's not, no. Don't do that. Don't, in your games, don't do that. Like, don't put your rook on the same diagonal as your king. Like, you'll live happier. You'll live a happier life if you don't. So like I said, Wesley So goes rook to E1. And so we see knight takes A4. And you just pretty much just see, like, I mean, the pawns are just dropping everywhere. And you know, you're trying to, you know, do a little bit of counterattack, but, you know, you get another pawn dropping, you get a pawn back, but, you know, it's, you know, you're down an entire piece in this particular situation. And, you know, Wesley's fighting hard, you know, so you gotta give him some credit for the heart. So we got knight to D3, so king to H2, trying to make sure you sidestep any fork situations. And so we have knight to B4, so we got rook down to C1, knight to D5, nice little outpost square with this pawn protecting here. And so we got rook to A7. And, you know, Magnus Carlsen just calmly plays rook to B8. Just says, hey, man, I'm just going to protect everything and be good. And so we got king to G3. So knight to E7. And king to G4. So we got B5. And this is like really where the super exclam comes in. Because like I said, you got B5. And, you know, these pawns are just like, there's really not a way to stop them. So you have rook to D1. B4. Rook A to D7. You know, trying with the clear threat of trying to check the king and win the rook. And Magnus Carlsen just lets it go. He says, man, I'm just gonna go ahead and push B3. You can win my rook to D8 check, rook takes D8, rook to D8 check, and the king comes down to A7. And you know, we got even rook to B8, and so we got B2. And this pawn is holding, this bishop is holding this pawn. So this bishop that moved like here and then went back and then came here and then came here, like it's like the champion of the game. And so we see king to F4, and then we see knight to D5 with check, and it's in this position that Wesley So actually resigned the game, because like I was saying, I mean, there's not really anything you can do. You know, these pawns are coming down the board and they're going to be queening, and there's just nothing you can do to stop them. So that is the game. It was pretty exciting for me to watch. So hopefully it was exciting for you for me to analyze for you. And as promised at the end here, I have another puzzle, and it is this one here, and it is the same. It's a little bit harder, but it is actually a blockade situation too. And so that's the clue I got for you guys, and I appreciate you guys stopping by. And go ahead and subscribe and like, and I will see you guys in the next game. Appreciate it.